Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring stands in his opulent office at the Air Ministry in Berlin, studying intelligence reports that make no sense. It's September 1940, and the numbers before him defy every calculation, every assessment, every prediction his staff has made about British aircraft production. According to German intelligence, the Royal Air Force should be down to fewer than 200 operational fighters. Instead, British squadrons continue putting up 600, 700, sometimes 800 aircraft against Luftwaffe formations. The reports spread across Göring's mahogany desk tell an impossible story. British aircraft factories bombed by the Luftwaffe are back in production within days. British fighter strength, which should be declining under German pressure, remains constant or even increases. British pilot training programs, which German intelligence estimated could produce perhaps 100 new aircrew per month, appear to be graduating 300 or more. Oberst Josef Schmid, Chief of Luftwaffe Intelligence, enters the office carrying additional reports from reconnaissance flights over Britain. His face shows the confusion and concern that have characterized German intelligence assessments since the Battle of Britain began. The photographs he carries reveal aircraft factories operating at capacity, training airfields crowded with new aircraft, production facilities that German bombers supposedly destroyed still functioning. Herr Reichsmarschall, Schmid begins carefully, our latest reconnaissance indicates British aircraft production exceeds our previous estimates, significantly exceeds them. The factories we've bombed are operational again. New production facilities have appeared. British fighter strength shows no signs of the decline we predicted. Göring examines the reconnaissance photographs, studies the intelligence summaries, checks the production estimates. The evidence is undeniable but inexplicable. British aircraft production appears to be operating at levels that German experts considered impossible for British industrial capacity. How many fighters are the British producing per month? Göring asks. Schmid consults his notes, clearly uncomfortable with the answer he must provide. Current estimates suggest 400 to 500 new fighters monthly, possibly more. Our previous assessment was 150 to 200 monthly, based on known British industrial capacity. The numbers are staggering. German aircraft production with the resources of occupied Europe produces approximately 300 fighters monthly. If British estimates are accurate, Britain alone is outproducing Germany in fighter aircraft, while simultaneously fighting a desperate defensive battle. Professor Ernst Heinkel, the aircraft designer, has been summoned to explain how British production could exceed German calculations. Heinkel understands aircraft manufacturing, industrial processes, production bottlenecks. He's designed some of Germany's most advanced aircraft, understands the complexities of mass production. Herr Professor Göring says, our intelligence indicates British aircraft production far exceeds what we believed possible. How can a nation under siege, with limited resources, outproduce the German aircraft industry? Heinkel studies the production figures, examines the reconnaissance photographs, considers the implications. The British appear to have achieved production efficiency that German industry hasn't matched. They're building aircraft faster, more efficiently, with fewer resources than German calculations suggested was possible. Herr Reichsmarschall, Heinkel responds carefully, the British may have implemented production methods we haven't anticipated. Mass production techniques, simplified designs, standardized components. They may have reorganized their entire aircraft industry for maximum efficiency. But how? Göring asks. Our intelligence indicated British aircraft factories were small, inefficient, incapable of mass production. How have they achieved production rates that exceed German capabilities? Heinkel has no satisfactory answer. German intelligence assessments of British industrial capacity were based on peacetime production, traditional manufacturing methods, pre-war organizational structures. If the British have revolutionized aircraft production, German estimates become meaningless. Lord Beaverbrook, British Minister of Aircraft Production, has indeed revolutionized British aircraft manufacturing. Appointed by Churchill in May 1940, Beaverbrook has transformed British aircraft production from a collection of traditional manufacturers into a coordinated industrial machine focused entirely on fighter production. Beaverbrook's methods are radical, unprecedented, effective. He's simplified aircraft designs, standardized components, implemented mass production techniques borrowed from automobile manufacturing. He's reorganized factories, streamlined supply chains, eliminated bureaucratic delays that slow production. Most importantly, Beaverbrook has focused British production entirely on fighters. While German aircraft industry produces bombers, transport aircraft, reconnaissance planes, training aircraft, British factories concentrate on Spitfires and Hurricanes. The specialization allows production efficiency that German diversified manufacturing cannot match. The results are dramatic. British fighter production increases from 157 aircraft in January 1940 to 496 in September 1940. Monthly production more than triples while Britain fights for survival. The increase occurs precisely when German intelligence predicts British production should collapse under bombing pressure. General Major Adolf Galland, commanding Jagdgeschwader 26, reports the tactical implications of British production success to Luftwaffe headquarters. His pilots engage British fighters daily, understand British capabilities, observe British tactical patterns. What they report contradicts German intelligence assessments. The British are not running out of fighters, Galland tells his superiors. Every day we shoot down British aircraft, but every day they put up the same numbers against us. Their pilot quality may be declining, but their aircraft numbers remain constant. They're replacing losses faster than we can inflict them. Galland's observations are confirmed by other fighter commanders throughout the Luftwaffe. British fighter strength shows no signs of the decline that German strategy depends upon. German tactics assume that sustained pressure will exhaust British resources, force British withdrawal, achieve German air superiority. But if British production exceeds British losses, German tactical assumptions become invalid. The war of attrition that Germany expects to win becomes a war of production that Germany cannot win. British industrial capacity, properly organized, exceeds German industrial capacity, despite German advantages in resources and territory. Oberst Werner Mülders, Germany's leading fighter ace, provides additional evidence of British production success. His unit maintains detailed records of British aircraft encountered, British pilot behavior, British tactical patterns. The records reveal disturbing trends. British aircraft quality is improving rather than declining, Mülders reports. New Spitfires show design modifications that suggest continuous development. British pilots, while less experienced individually, demonstrate training that suggests systematic pilot production. The British are not just maintaining their air force, they're improving it. The observation contradicts German expectations completely. Nations under siege, fighting for survival, cannot simultaneously maintain current production and develop improved designs. Resources must be allocated between immediate needs and future development. The British appear to be achieving both simultaneously. Professor Willy Messerschmitt, designer of the Bf-109 fighter, analyzes captured British aircraft to understand British production methods. His examination reveals manufacturing techniques that surprise German engineers. British aircraft show evidence of mass production methods, simplified assembly, standardized components that reduce manufacturing time and cost. The British have redesigned their aircraft for production efficiency, Messerschmitt tells German aviation officials. They've eliminated complex components, simplified manufacturing processes, standardized parts across different aircraft types. They're building aircraft faster and cheaper than we anticipated. Messerschmitt's analysis reveals the secret of British production success. While German aircraft remain individually superior, British aircraft are designed for mass production. British engineers have sacrificed some performance for production efficiency, accepting slightly inferior aircraft in exchange for superior numbers. The trade-off proves strategically sound. In aerial combat, numerical superiority often matters more than individual aircraft performance. British fighters may be slightly inferior to German fighters individually, but British numerical superiority provides tactical advantages that offset individual aircraft limitations. General der Flieger Hans-Joachim Schoneck, Chief of the Luftwaffe General Staff, receives comprehensive intelligence assessments of British aircraft production in October 1940. The assessments force fundamental reassessment of German strategic assumptions about the air war against Britain. British aircraft production exceeds German production, the intelligence summary concludes. British pilot training produces more aircrew than German training programs. British aircraft quality continues to improve despite production pressure. British Air Force strength is increasing rather than decreasing under German attack. Jesenek understands the strategic implications immediately. German air strategy depends on achieving decisive superiority through sustained pressure on British resources. If British resources are adequate to match German pressure while simultaneously improving British capabilities, German strategy fails. The air war against Britain cannot be won through attrition if British production exceeds British losses. German tactical superiority cannot compensate for British numerical superiority if British numbers continue increasing. German strategic objectives become unachievable if British industrial capacity exceeds German estimates. Jesenek requests a meeting with Hitler to discuss the implications of British production success. The meeting occurs at the Reich Chancellery in November 1940, with Göring, Schmidt and other senior Luftwaffe officials present. The discussion is frank, disturbing, strategically decisive. Mein Führer, Jesenek begins. British aircraft production exceeds our intelligence estimates, significantly exceeds them. The British are producing more fighters monthly than we can destroy. They're outproducing us while fighting a defensive battle. Hitler examines the production figures, studies the intelligence assessments, considers the implications. German strategy assumes British industrial weakness, British resource limitations, British inability to sustain prolonged conflict. If those assumptions are wrong, German strategic planning requires fundamental revision. How is this possible? Hitler asks. Britain is a small island with limited resources. They're under blockade, under bombing, under constant pressure. How can they outproduce the German Reich with the resources of occupied Europe? Jesenek has prepared for this question, but the answer is politically uncomfortable. The British have organized their aircraft industry more efficiently than we have organized ours. They've focused entirely on fighter production, while we've diversified across multiple aircraft types. They've implemented mass production methods that we haven't adopted. The explanation suggests German organizational inadequacy, German industrial inefficiency, German strategic miscalculation. Hitler cannot accept that British industrial organization exceeds German industrial organization. The admission would undermine fundamental Nazi assumptions about German superiority. Instead, Hitler blames intelligence failure, sabotage, British propaganda. The production figures must be exaggerated. British claims must be inflated. German intelligence must be deceived by British deception operations designed to inflate British capabilities. But the evidence accumulates daily. German pilots report constant encounters with new British aircraft. German reconnaissance reveals expanding British production facilities. German intelligence intercepts confirm British production success. The British are outproducing Germany in the aircraft that matter most, fighters. Albert Speer, not yet armaments minister but already involved in production planning, analyzes British aircraft production methods through captured documents and interrogated personnel. His analysis reveals organizational innovations that German industry hasn't implemented. The British have centralized aircraft production under single authority, Speer reports. They've eliminated competing priorities, bureaucratic delays, resource conflicts. They've focused entirely on immediate military requirements rather than long-term development programs. Speer's analysis identifies the key to British success: organizational focus. While German aircraft industry pursues multiple objectives simultaneously, British industry concentrates on single objective: fighter production. The concentration allows efficiency that diversified production cannot achieve. German aircraft industry produces fighters, bombers, transport aircraft, training planes, experimental designs. Resources are divided among competing priorities, reducing efficiency in each category. British industry produces fighters almost exclusively, achieving maximum efficiency in the most critical category. The organizational difference proves decisive. British focused production exceeds German diversified production in the aircraft category that determines the outcome of the air war. German technological superiority cannot compensate for British organizational superiority when organization determines production volume. Feldmarschall Erhard Milch, State Secretary for Aviation, implements changes to German aircraft production based on analysis of British methods. The changes include production concentration, organizational streamlining, bureaucratic reduction. But the changes come too late to affect the Battle of Britain. British production advantages, established before the war began, cannot be overcome by German organizational changes implemented during the war. British head start in production planning, combined with British organizational efficiency, provides British advantages that German changes cannot eliminate quickly enough to matter. By December 1940, German intelligence acknowledges that British aircraft production exceeds German aircraft production in fighter categories. The acknowledgement forces strategic reassessment of the air war against Britain. German objectives become unachievable if British production provides British numerical superiority. Hitler postpones Operation Sea Lion, the planned invasion of Britain, partly because Luftwaffe cannot achieve air superiority necessary for invasion success. The failure to achieve air superiority results partly from British production success that provides British numerical advantages despite German tactical superiority. What German commanders said when Britain's aircraft production surprised the Reich was initially nothing. Said nothing officially because acknowledging British production superiority would require admitting German intelligence failure, German organizational inadequacy, German strategic miscalculation. But privately, in secure communications and personal records, German commanders recorded their observations. Göring wrote in his diary, "The British have achieved production efficiency that exceeds our capabilities. They're building aircraft faster than we can destroy them." Gallen noted in his combat reports, "British fighter numbers remain constant despite our daily victories. They're replacing aircraft faster than we can shoot them down. Our tactical success doesn't translate to strategic advantage." Jeschonek observed in staff meetings, "British aircraft production represents organizational achievement that we underestimated. They've focused their industry more effectively than we've focused ours. They're winning the production war while fighting the tactical war." Milch concluded in his production assessments, "British industrial organization exceeds German industrial organization in aircraft production. They've achieved efficiency through focus that we haven't achieved through diversification." The observations were accurate, but politically uncomfortable. Acknowledging British organizational superiority would require questioning German assumptions about industrial efficiency, technological superiority, strategic planning. The truth was strategically inconvenient, politically unacceptable, ideologically impossible. Instead, German leadership blamed intelligence failure, British propaganda, temporary circumstances. Anything except the obvious explanation. British aircraft production exceeded German aircraft production because British organization exceeded German organization in the categories that mattered most. The truth emerged gradually through post-war analysis, declassified documents, historical investigation. British aircraft production under Lord Beaverbrook achieved efficiency that German industry never matched. British organizational focus provided advantages that German technological superiority couldn't overcome. British fighter production increased from 157 monthly in January 1940 to 496 monthly in September 1940. German fighter production remained approximately 300 monthly throughout the same period. British production exceeded German production precisely when German strategy assumed British production would collapse. The production advantage proved decisive in the Battle of Britain. British numerical superiority, achieved through superior organization rather than superior resources, provided tactical advantages that determined the outcome of the air war. German pilots might be superior individually, but British numbers were superior collectively. What German commanders said when they realized Britain's aircraft production had surprised the Reich revealed their understanding that British organizational efficiency exceeded German organizational efficiency in critical areas. British industrial focus provided advantages that German industrial diversification couldn't match, but acknowledging British superiority was politically impossible, strategically uncomfortable, ideologically unacceptable. So German commanders said nothing officially, while privately recording observations that confirmed British organizational achievements. The silence spoke volumes about German inability to acknowledge enemy success, to learn from enemy innovations, to adapt German methods to match enemy efficiency. German technological superiority couldn't compensate for British organizational superiority when organization determined production volume. Britain's aircraft production surprised the Reich because German intelligence underestimated British organizational capability, British industrial efficiency, British ability to focus resources on critical objectives. The surprise revealed German limitations rather than British luck. Lord Beaverbrook's revolution in British aircraft production represented organizational innovation that German industry couldn't match quickly enough to matter. British production success provided the foundation for British survival, British resistance, British ultimate victory in the air war that determined the fate of Western civilization. What German commanders said about British aircraft production, when they finally acknowledged the truth, was that British organization exceeded German organization in the areas that mattered most. But they said it too late, too quietly, too privately to change the outcome of the war, that British production efficiency had already decided.